This is Anytown, USA, just like your town. Here we see everyone going about their normal business. There's the Rockwell family and young Jane Rockwell. And there's Mr. Rockwell. Like many Americans, Mr. Rockwell has a secret. He's a member of a secret society who perform rituals in secret every week. Tonight, in a city, town, or small village near you, millions of men, and some women, will wear uniforms with strange occult symbols on them. The meetings will be held in utter secrecy. Only those who know the correct handshake and passwords will be allowed entry to these rituals. Ancient rituals venerating the memory of King Solomon of ancient Israel will take place. Hymns will be sung, which contain the names of gods and evil demons. Medals and swords will be awarded to members who attain the rank of knight, prince, duke, or even grand dragon. This film is about the global network of people who are members of secret societies, who, either knowingly or unknowingly, are members of the Brotherhood of the Beast.
Let it begin. The Persian Gulf is not only rich in oil, it is also rich in ancient wisdom. Long before Muhammad and the birth of Islam, Palestine, Lebanon, Syria, Iran, and also Iraq were the home to thousands of mystery schools. Iraq was once the home of the Sumerian, Chaldean, and Babylonian empires. Anthropologists describe the early belief systems of Persia and Siberia as shamanism. Shamanism is the common root to all the world's greatest religions and cults. In the ancient world, long before Christians, Jews, and Muslims formed their sects in Jerusalem, there was a belief in the spirits of nature and the spirits of the stars. To ancient man, We were all spirits, inhabiting physical flesh and blood bodies. Not only did each man have a spirit, but all animals too. Even trees, mountains, and planets had spirits. In order to see these spirits in the mind's eye, mystics the world over began experimenting with various hallucinogenic plants, roots, mushrooms, vines, and flowers. Ancient peoples believed that these hallucinogenic plants were the key to unlocking a cosmic spiritual world, to be able to see the invisible, to be able to see the astral world. Shamans taught that the spirits of our ancestors and animals and plants were knowledgeable in all things. If you were ill and consulted a shaman doctor, it was the doctor who drank the potion, not the patient. The shaman doctor would then summon spirits of ancestors who would psychically look into the body of the patient. In another case, a spirit of a plant may make itself known to the shaman doctor and volunteer to be the cure. Welcome to the strange world of shamanic magic.
As je weet wide ina una.
Kopze na ta na vavuin.
Eish, shine noes kudonas. Na bwe deftan, ma vone vis pepe dam.
Eish. Ernest don. Ernatan kwaya baun wabe. Det baksaj ni fish ma bebed. Shande shane.
Aridona. Avompo.
In the Persian Gulf, a particular form of shamanism developed, which was called the working of the chariot. This form of shamanism gave birth to Judaism, which was taught at mystery schools in ancient Babylon, which is today's modern-day Iraq. Latin was, and still is, the language of the royal political religious elite. Spirits were conjured upon payment to the magician and summoned to give information on enemies and even cause direct harm to individuals or even an entire army. John Dee, along with other magicians and Kabbalists such as Abraham the Jew, were employed by the royal elite right across Europe. Their roles in the secret history of the royal political elite predated the present trend of employing remote viewers and clairvoyants in the CIA and Her Majesty's intelligence services. It is widely known to everyone from the CIA to the Romany fortune tellers in seaside towns across Britain that spirits know all things past, present, and future. The techniques for summoning spirits include strange vocal sounds, which were often repeated, causing the magician to get out of breath and enter an altered state of consciousness. The most famous magical text for summoning demons is called the Goetia, which instructs the magician to make howling sounds whilst calling out the names of the demons in the hierarchy of hell. In medieval Europe, the Goetia became known as the Book of Howling. Sound is one of the most important elements in magical spells. To this day, modern science cannot explain the fact that certain melodies, harmonies, and pieces of music can excite the emotions of a person. Spirits are likewise emotionally excited with certain sounds and tend to gather into a temple or house wherever particular sounds are heard. Sound can be used to increase emotions, and at Waco, Texas, and Guantanamo Bay in Cuba, sound and music have been used as a torture weapon. The sound most commonly used to summon spirits is the secret name of God, Yod-Ha-Vah-He, which has been incorrectly translated by Christians as Jehovah. Another, even more secret name for God is the Shem-Ham-Forash, which Moses recited in order to part the Red Sea. The full version of Shem-Ham-Forash has 72 letters, exactly the same number of evil spirits which are described in the most famous grimoire, the Goetia. Similarly, Buddhists and Hindus on the Indian subcontinent recite mantras in order to attract spirits. The most famous sacred sound in the Himalayas is Om, considered to be the ultimate mystic sound. Large groups of monks gather to chant the Om, and in doing so create a psychic atmosphere in the temple, as the entire building and surrounding mountains vibrate with this ancient sound. In India, there are spiritualists who claim to be able to see the shapes produced by certain sounds in the ether of space. Modern science has confirmed that each planet and star broadcasts sounds in frequencies which the human ear cannot normally detect. NASA scientists have recorded the sounds of the planets. Many of these droning and humming sounds resemble the Om mantra of India and the chanting of Jewish Kabbalists. In Alaska and Europe, there are experiments taking place which broadcast microwaves into the atmosphere, which cancel the natural vibrations of the solar system which reach planet Earth. The most famous of these projects is run by British Aerospace in Alaska at the HARP research facility. HARP uses technologies invented by Nikola Tesla. Tesla devised a transmission system which resonated the ether. Some authors claim HARP is blocking the natural vibrations and etheric energy on planet Earth and disconnecting mankind from spiritual awareness. The sounds and words used in magical spells are designed to attract specific spirits. According to British black magician Francis Barrett, who wrote a magical textbook called The Celestial Intelligencer in 1801, just repeating aloud the names of certain angels and demons was enough to make the room fill with spirits. In 1584, the magician Reginald Scott wrote his own magical grimoire text called The Discovery of Witchcraft. Reginald Scott studied one of the most famous grimoires called the Chaldean Oracles of Zoroaster, which has existed for at least 1,500 years. This ancient text contains the so-called barbarous words of evocation. These are sounds rather than identifiable words. They consist of connected syllables which have no meaning in any known language, but are written using ancient sigils or symbols which evolved from ancient Israel, Egypt, and Babylon. Reginald Scott's book is a list of names of spirits which are to be called out and chanted in a certain order. These lists of spirit names are called litanies. Many magical texts are just simple lists or litanies of the names of planets, angels, spirits, and demons. Just like a computer program is just a list of commands, so too is a magic spell for summoning spirits. Magicians chant and recite these complex lists of names whilst visualizing the magic circle being filled with spirits. Many privately owned magical textbooks were written on consecrated vellum. Often the ink was made from human blood. Some of these books were so effective at summoning spirits that merely opening the book would cause spirits to congregate and ask, "What does the master desire to know?" Many magicians believe that the ancient sigils and talisman designs representing the barbarous names of evocation are the actual vessels in which the spirits live. Alongside the spells of the grimoires, magicians are instructed to recite psalms, which are an important part of calling demons into the temple. Just by reciting psalms, calling the names of demons, and writing their name sigils in blood drawn from the magician's own hand is usually sufficient to call a spirit, angel, or demon from the astral planes.
What now? Now, we wait.
Frankly, I think we're behaving like a pack of idiots.
It begins.
Come on. What begins?
Makata is working on you because you are the weakest link.
From his point of view, Richard, you are the skeptical one. He is looking for an easy way to break the circle.
Come on, will you? Is there anything I could say right now that you wouldn't interpret in your own suspicious way?
Richard.
It's all superstition. Black magic. Hell, I'm going for a drink.
Richard! You and I have been friends for many years, haven't we?
I don't follow you.
If I begged you, for the sake of that friendship, to do something for me, would you do it?
You know I would.
Very well. Then will you stay with me in the circle tonight? You are unafraid. I am not.
That's a pretty low trick, appealing to friendship.
Will you stay?
What else can I do?
I wish we had some water.
We have.
What?
Yeah.
Yes. Where'd you get your water from? A swamp?
What?
Taste it.
No, don't touch it.
All right, it's some fresh.
No! That's exactly what he wanted to do.
What is it?
I'm not certain, but
What?
the lights.
What about the lights?
They seem to be dimmer.
Not?
Yes.
I don't know what you're...
It's getting colder.
This is to be expected. It's only beginning.
In the hall. can't we do anything but just stand here? Isn't there any way of fighting back?
Only one.
What?
The last 2 lines of the Susama ritual.
God's sake, then what are you waiting for?
I daren't use them until our very souls are in peril of destruction. To do so would destroy us as effectively as it would stop Makata. It can alter time and space.
What is it?
He has given up trying to get Simon. He has sent the angel of death himself to claim him.
And us?
He once breaks into the circle. If we once catch sight of his face...
In the city of Angers, in northwestern France, there hangs the world's largest tapestry. The tapestry depicts the multi-headed devil in the form of a red dragon, and many scenes which illustrate the final book of the Holy Bible. The full title of this book is John's Book of the Revelation of the Apocalypse, which describes the future end of the world. It was dictated to the apostle known as John, as he lay with his head inserted into a niche in a cavern on the Greek island of Patmos. The entire book of Revelation was dictated to John by spirits. The Angers tapestry hangs in the castle once owned by the Angevin royal dynasty, who controlled thrones in France and Britain. It was in this part of France that many of the grimoires were published. The door to Angers Cathedral features sigils found in the grimoires. Many churches and cathedrals throughout Europe and Britain are actually Kabbalistic magical temples masquerading as churches. French historians claim that black masses have been performed on the altars of churches throughout Europe for centuries. In Great Britain, many churches allow their facilities to be used by Freemasons without realizing that the psalms of Freemasonry are the exact same psalms which are chanted by magicians who wrote the magical grimoires. These psalms are fundamental to the art of summoning spirits and demons. Whilst medieval witch hunts forced herbalists into hiding from the Vatican's bloodthirsty inquisitions, the royal Angevin elite in France resided in their castles, studying the intense imagery of the Revelation, where the devil is a shape-shifting, multi-headed red dragon.
Makes the rain fall. Blood makes the earth grow. And in blood, all men are born and die. Blood is the food of the gods below.
Today we ride to our destiny.
A lot of people have asked me what the demons of the Goetia actually look like, and for the most part they appear in the mind's eye of the magician. It's very rare that you'll have a situation where a spirit or a demon will actually show itself within the magic circle or the triangle of art. It is true to say that the psyche of the magician is really the landscape in which the demons appear. And if you look at illustrations of medieval monks, you'll see that a monk's habit has a rope tied around it. Now, this is a tradition that's come from the mystery schools of Sumeria, which is Babylon, that's ancient Iraq. And really it's the Chaldean, Sumerian and Babylonian priests who are the experts in defining what we call high ceremonial magic. And what they used to do is they used to actually create a circle on the ground using a piece of cord, and this circle was really an extension of the aura of the magician, and it was a visual aid to the magician to say to the spirits, this is my domain, this is my aura, and this circle protects me from you. Now, at the end of every single magical ritual, you should actually give the spirits a license to depart. And the most common form of that would be to say to the spirits, leave me now. If you've given the spirits some kind of command or instruction, you say, go forth and do my will, and please leave now. That means leave the temple, leave the ritual space, and leave me alone in good peace. Now, there is always this danger that you're going to invoke or summon a spirit or a demon, and at the end of the ritual the demon will hang around, and this is when you get spirit possession, this is when things get very, very nasty. And so what the Chaldean, Babylonian magicians used to do is they used to pick up the cord that was used to make the protective magic circle on the ground, and for extra protection for the days after the ritual had ended, they used to wrap the cord around their waists. And this is why very commonly you see illustrations of medieval monks with the long gown. That was very typical of what magicians used to wear, with a cord wrapped around their waists. Iraq, for many centuries, was the center of magical tradition in the Persian Gulf. For hundreds of years, thousands of Jewish shamans, today we call them students of the Kabbalah, studied in Fallujah, Basra, and Baghdad. In the 1950s, after the formation of the State of Israel, more than 120,000 Jews emigrated from Iraq. Iraq is not only the crucible of creation, but Iraq was also the birthplace of Kabbalistic, Chaldean, and Babylonian magic. The secret teachings of the mystery schools of Baghdad eventually spread to Egypt, where centuries later the royal pharaohs would use dark mirrors to contact spirits. Iraq is now one of the Persian Gulf states, but in ancient times Iraq was known as the Kingdom of Babylon. The name Babylon means the gate of the gods. In ancient Baghdad, there once stood giant statues of bulls with human heads. This was the famous Babylon Gate, which today, like so many treasures from this ancient land, is now on display thousands of miles away in the British Museum. The so-called Babylon Gate of the Gods was not just a physical gateway. The statues represented a psychic gateway, a portal where telepathic messages could be communicated to the ancient gods of the stars. The Baghdad Museum has a collection of stone tablets and statues illustrating what these star gods looked like. They were called the Anunnaki. Just recently, thousands of ancient artifacts were looted from the Baghdad Museum, and some of these artifacts, many of them portraying the Anunnaki star gods, have been handed into the authorities, having been dumped on roadsides in the USA. Baghdad, which today is under foreign military rule, was once the global capital of magical ritual. Thus, we see in the many museums recently looted in Iraq ancient manuscripts and stone tablets which explain a technique for drawing on the ground a magic circle. This circle was considered by the magicians of ancient Iraq to be a physical representation of the aura of the human spirit. Around the circle, the Babylonian mystics would write the names of spirits which guard the 4 cardinal points of the universe. The mystic would then inscribe in the air a pentagram and stab this imaginary pentagram with a magical sword, banishing any unwanted spirits from the temple. Bait, in the form of little gifts or offerings, would be laid out on a table inside the circle, and the name of the spirit which the mystic wanted to converse with would be chanted. A piece of polished metal or glass was used to see or scry the faces of spirits. This became known as the dark mirror, and it became widely used by magicians working for the Egyptian royals, by the Oracle of Tibet, and also used to divine the most appropriate date for the coronation of Elizabeth I by her royal astrologer, Dr. John Dee. John Dee's dark mirror was recently on display at the Science Museum in London. Shamanism, paganism, and Druidism from Europe, the Mediterranean and the Persian Gulf states coalesced into a form of occult science. The formulation of magical spells became popular in the Greek islands, where mystery schools dedicated to hallucinogenic plants flourished for thousands of years before the birth of Christ. Archaeologists have uncovered magical papyri written in Greek which call forth spirits to aid healing, obtaining visions of the spirit world, exorcism, the attainment of beauty and love, and the destruction of enemies. These Greek magical spells influenced magical tradition across the Holy Lands and later influenced magical texts published in medieval Europe. The names of the spirits invoked in these magical ceremonies had to be called out accurately with the correct pronunciation in order to summon the correct spirit. In other words, the magician had to be good at grammar. And these European magical spells became known as grimoires, which is an old French term for grammar. If you invoked the wrong name, then you would end up invoking perhaps an astral corpse or an imposter spirit. In the writings of Lactantius, he describes the thousands of lost spirits. They are defiled and abandoned demons who roam the face of the earth seeking comfort in destroying men. They fell everything with their tricks and strategies, their deceits and wiles. Lactantius was referring to the incredible seductive power of spirits and demons. If you perform magical ritual well, choosing a time which is most conducive astrologically, and calling the names correctly, then in the mind's eye of the magician, or more alarmingly, in physical plain view, perhaps in the reflections of a crystal ball, or forming a face in the smoke of sacred incense, you will eventually be confronted with the presence of a spirit.
And so, my friend, the master devised this pretty little scheme as a way of getting back a horror to the eyes of all men who seek faith using magic. It's not enough, you see, to be a spirit.
Today, some of the world's greatest libraries have collections of ancient magical manuscripts. Amongst these collections of manuscripts, there are personal diaries of several medieval magicians. Some of these manuscripts, or grimoires, describe that evil spirits, otherwise known as demons, can often first appear in a very seductive appearance. Perhaps these evil spirits will take on the shape of a small lost child. A demon may also appear as an old person or a beautiful person of either gender. A demon can change its appearance at will, and most demons actually appear as grotesque beings which combine facial and physical aspects of both humans and animals. Sometimes they resemble monsters, with aspects of humans and animals all rolled into one ugly being. If you want to see what the demons look like, then you only have to visit any of the cathedrals and churches built by the Knights Templar. They built churches and cathedrals all over Europe in the 11th, 12th and 13th centuries. So-called gargoyles are actually representations of the demon spirits described in the ancient book of Howling, otherwise known as the Goetia. So what we're doing is we're secretly filming, well, sort of fairly secretly filming. They won't allow me to film in here properly. They keep harassing me every time I bring a camera in here. And this is a cathedral in the south of France, in a place called Narbonne. And this cathedral, like many other cathedrals, was designed by the Knights Templar and sympathisers of the Knights Templar. Now we know through the confessions of the Knights Templar that they were involved in black magic, and they had idols called Baphomets, and